This is a digital tablet stylus. This is a pen. And they both have their pros and cons. So often I'll use one or the other depending on my needs. But if there's anything I've learned from Dragon Ball Z, it's that if there's two things that are powerful in their own way, the best thing to do is the fusion hard dance. You have to do this with exact precision. Fusion ha! It worked! G'day everyone, I'm Jazza, and today we're going to be looking at the Huion Scribo. Now, obviously, disclaimer, this video is sponsored by Huion. Huion is a long-term friend of the channel, and aside from being a wonderful sponsor, they also make really inventive and innovative and affordable products. And this is one of the most impressive and interesting ones that I've been sent, and it's brand new. And in this video, I'm just going to explore it and share it with you guys. The Huion Scribo is a digital pen that can draw directly on paper. Simply place your paper on a compatible tablet, and you can sketch and draw down your ideas on the paper and digitally simultaneously. So I'm using the Huion Scribo with the HS611, but it's compatible with the H640p, the H950p, the H1060p, the H320M, Q620M, the HS64, HS610, HS611, H610 Pro V2. For only $39.99, you get a pen that comes with 3 nibs, the stylus nib and 2 drawing nibs. The Huion Scribo is a battery-free pen which is designed for daily usage. So I'm going to link to this product in the description. You can go check it out yourself. Once again, a huge thank you to Huion for sponsoring this video. But with that disclaimer and all of that information out of the way, today we're just going to muck around. First and foremost, you can see that the form factor is actually quite a bit different, more akin to a traditional pen. So I've got my paper on my tablet. So we open this up and out pops this little packet, and inside this little packet we have the nib alternatives and the tweezers. Now these nib alternatives have this little plastic cover, so to use them you're gonna have to just pull that off, get our tweezers, grab the nib, pull it out. So let's start with the ballpoint pen. And I just have Photoshop open and I have my piece of paper on the tablet, and apparently that's it. Like, that's as complicated as it gets. So let's give this a test. Hello world. Did that work? I had my eraser selected. So no, it didn't draw in Photoshop at all. Great, good job. Off to a good start. Step 1, make sure you actually have your brush tool selected in Photoshop. I think step 2 is gonna have to be to select the right brush. If I have my paintbrush and I start writing, immediately, obviously, the paintbrush in Photoshop is a lot thicker than what I'm putting down with the Scribo. Like, I'm filling down a thick color here in Photoshop, and obviously on paper it's less elegant. Now, as part of my default brush set, I have a bunch of different fine liners. Try the 1.0. This is just my way to sort of see if the gaps between the lines are about the same. I think the line is a little thicker in Photoshop, but I think I would prefer that. But can I just say, already, like, that's a really interesting experience, because when I press lightly and draw, it's doing the same thing. Like, the pressure sensitivity is clearly there. What happens if I grab a wad of like 10 pages? I mean, it seems to have the same sensitivity. So the separation between the pen and the tablet doesn't seem to matter. It just must need to detect it above the tablet. Otherwise, the drawing experience is exactly the same. So that's cool. What about half a sketchbook? Okay, that works. So I think that's the answer. You've got about 1 centimeter. That's about how far away the pen is when it starts to pick it up. Let's draw a picture. So I'm just gonna get a couple of little corners of tape here and just, that's not going anywhere, which means whatever I draw is going to be in the same place on both. I'll tell you what, that Dragon Ball Z reference at the start of the video has me feeling like I need to draw Goku right about now. So I've got a Goku sketch now, and that is at a point where I'd quite happily draw the line work on top. I think the other thing I need to do is just make sure my boundaries are super clear. So I'm just gonna hold my pen at the edge of the canvas and drag the paper down until the hair's all there. Yep. Otherwise I have a little bit of room to go in this direction. So the edge of the fist is there, and that's the edge of that hand. So now that I've gotten the whole boundary thing out of the way, in theory I should be able to just draw. Now occasionally when I put down a line, it may not draw a portion of it, just like any ballpoint pen would do, but I'm mitigating that by having Photoshop open, and I can see every now and then if I draw a line and it's not putting it down, just like how every now and then you need to go back to a ballpoint pen and just have a little scribble to make it wake up, the ink itself, not the digital element, then you can just sort of see that and just redraw that little area with the pen on the paper. So I'm trying to see how we go in making two artworks at once, essentially. A digital artwork that maybe with a few little tweaks or bits of refinement later becomes a really solid piece of digital art, but also a traditional piece that has been drawn in a way that's comfortable and organic, which so far is, and just sort of see how they compare and what the experience was like and what they look like next to each other. Okay, so there is my inked artwork, ink on paper. Well done. Oops. Oh, it's okay, because I can hit Control Z. Maybe not on the paper, that's there for good. But that's okay, because we're transitioning to our digital artwork anyway. So I'm going through and cleaning up my drawing, and I'm looking at the screen to find little areas where I want to clean up the line work, and then I'm just looking at my drawing to touch it up. And the main perk of this is I get to undo and change stuff, and I don't like the face. The face just sort of looks a bit wide and disproportionate. So I'm going to add color and reproportion the image later, but something I want to play with is actually adding another layer, because in theory I can just take my pen, and if I want to shade this in a little bit and maybe add a bit more dimension, I can do that, and it will create permanent lines and shading traditionally. But in theory, I can tweak this digitally later and give myself the ability to tone it down or blend it in a way that's going to make it much more subtle. I glance across at the screen just to make sure that everything's, going down cleanly, or I don't need to undo anything or whatever. And for the most part, I can just sort of ignore it and just verify that everything's going all right so far. But the drawing experience comes back to being really natural because I'm just looking at what I'm drawing, but it's giving me another layer of stuff to work with digitally, which I can come back to and play with later, and it's going down pretty clean. All right, I'm pretty happy with that. So now when I go to Photoshop, I've got another layer that I can bring in that immediately adds that depth and refinement that I had when I had the pencil and the ink lines. I'm just gonna use that again, add a new layer, and this time, let's do a little bit of the classic Dragon Ball Z power-up lines. That's just on its own layer. Let's add another layer. This is sort of fun. This time, let's just go just a few really sharp, strong lines. Let's just stop there. Hey, that's pretty cool. I'm happy with that. I mean, I would call it done there, and I will for my traditional piece. But now we have a whole spectrum of stuff we can play with by switching my nib. Going this time into my stylus nib, and now all of a sudden I just have a normal digital tablet. So first things first, I'm gonna hide those two effects layers that I made. I wasn't 100% with the proportions, so I'm just gonna transform, and just like any old digital artwork, I can make the changes I want to. So just move that into place, just like that, there we go. And I'm just much happier with those proportions. And then I can just go through and do little cleanups here and there as I choose to. So I'm just going around my original line work and filling in all the gaps. There aren't many. I'm just making sure I catch 100% of them. So now I'm just going to select all the empty space. I'm going to inverse that and fill it in. And now with a clipping mask, I'm just going to do some super quick shading.
Let's go!
So super quickly and easily, I've just slapped in a little bit of shading, a little bit of color. But here's where I think it's gonna start to get really cool. I think I'll be able to add effects and different layering styles from the traditional artwork into my digital artwork super quickly and easily. So for example, if I double click the color clipping mask base, I can add a stroke around the outside. Just like that, I can just change the thickness of the outline. Now I'm gonna bring back my shading lines, and obviously that looks pretty rough around the edges, but I could tweak the blend modes. Overlay looks really cool. And using those lines that I drew as a bit of a guide, I'm just going to fill in outside of them. And just like that. We've got a bit of a charge effect that looks really cool, but I can just add more layers and filters until it looks even cooler. I'm gonna do a circular gradient from the middle out to, from white to orange, like this. So now I'm gonna go back to those lines and make them a white line, and then I'm gonna go black lines to a special effect. What about these direction lines? Do the same thing, easy. I've transformed my traditional artwork of Goku in the space of about 10 minutes into a digital, stylistic, and much more intense artwork. Barely any more effort than the initial drawing itself. So it's just given me a lot more to work with to make something really, really cool. I guess obviously if you're gonna do the best traditional piece in the world, you would use the best traditional materials in the world, and likewise with digital. But if you've already got any of those tablets that are compatible with the Scribo, the ability to play around and create some pretty refined results and be able to access the benefits of both mediums is certainly a benefit worth considering, especially the $39. Now this video isn't a review. I am obviously biased. Huion has sponsored this video. With that said, like, look at that. The difference between this traditional artwork and this digital result side by side is the difference of about 10 minutes, and it's all just, I did the work already. I just got to muck around with it in a way that I couldn't without using the Scribo, which is a really cool product. I'll link to it in the description. If you have a compatible tablet, certainly pick it up because you're going to enjoy it. It's really fun, gives you a lot to play with. And I hope you enjoyed this video, whether you have a tablet or you're an artist or not. At the end of the day, the stuff you can do creatively with the tools we have available to us today, both in programs and in hardware, it's pretty bloody amazing. But sometimes nothing is as satisfying as putting pen or pencil to paper. Anyways, I hope you have enjoyed this video and the end result. It's been a while since I've drawn Goku. Missed it. Make sure to subscribe for more fun with art and creativity. That's it for now, and until next time, I'll see you later.